What's up, everybody? Wednesday morning, 10th of February, and we have a special guest. Paris is not only a celebrity at Instructure, she's also a celebrity in the Canvas community. So if you know much about her, she was essentially the queen bee, the czar of all things support for quite a while. And now she's moved over and she is one of our incredible trainers. So you are in for a treat today because she's going to answer a lot of those questions you may have about the new rich content editor. So Paris, how was that for an intro?
Awesome. Thanks.
Czar, queen. Anytime you throw those words in, you know it's going to be a good session.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the new RCE. So about a couple weeks ago, we switched on the new RCE for a lot of schools. So a lot of you got to be part of the new RCE. So we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the different common questions that people were kind of running into, or just not knowing a couple different things, because whenever something changes, sometimes that can be spooky and scary. But the new RCE is actually really awesome. So I'm going to show you some of the different things that you can do in it today. So kind of on our agenda today, so common questions about the new RCE that we've been getting, and then I'm going to demonstrate how it is that you can do those things in the new RCE. So some of the really common questions, because I touched base with our support team because I was just curious, hey, we've turned on the new RCE. What is it that we've been seeing that people have been asking about? So a lot of the common questions were things like, how do I embed my media? How is it that I can add my images, add documents, embed my videos, or even record videos, as well as how is it I can find some of my tools? Because now with external tools, it's in a little different spot than it was before. So we'll kind of talk about how it is that you can find those external tools. So things like your Google Studio, if you're using Office 365 or whatever, any tools you might be using. So I'm going to hop over here. We're going to switch screens. So within the new RCE, the biggest change you'll notice at first is the UI. It's a little bit different, but the new RCE kind of really cleans things up as opposed to the classic RCE in here. You'll notice you now have a toolbar at the top when you are in the RCE. So before, if you needed to undo something, you just kind of needed to know how to do that on the computer. But now with the little drop-down toolbar, if you need to undo something that you typed out or even redo instead of just knowing your key commands, you can just hop up there to the edit menu. You can cut, copy, paste, all that fun stuff. Under the view, you could even, if you're wanting to work in your RCE full screen, you can make it much bigger now, because before it was kind of just like, okay, I'm working on it in this little tiny box. While you do have the ability to, if you ever want to make your screen bigger, your RCE box bigger, but maybe not go full screen, there are these little 8 dots in the bottom corner of your screen over here on the right-hand side. You can't always click and drag that down. So if you don't want to go full screen, but maybe you want to give yourself a little bit more room to work in, you do have the ability to drag that down. You can also full screen from down here in the bottom corner as well. So all these options that you actually find up here on the top, they're also kind of just scattered amongst the new RCE in the bar up at the top or down here at the bottom. So, and then I'm going to kind of use some of the different icons, but you can use the top toolbar. And I would honestly say it's kind of preference based. Personally, I don't use this top toolbar too much unless there's something specifically up here that I need. More often than not, especially when it comes to inserting media, images, videos, things like that, I actually just like to use these little icons over here. And something that's also really neat is if you're ever in the RCE and you're like, what is this little mountain and sun icon? You can actually hover your mouse over it and it'll give you the little text tooltip letting you know, hey, this is for images. So I mentioned that some of our really common questions that we got within the new RCE is really how it is that you embed different things. So the first biggest one is how it is that you embed media. So you'll notice you have the ability to click on the icon here. You also have a little drop-down arrow as well. So just to kind of show you what the little drop-down arrow gives you the option to do, You can upload an image, meaning it will allow you to, so if you have a picture on your computer, you can upload something directly from your computer. But if you also have images already in your course where maybe you're like, hey, I've uploaded this picture already once before, instead of maybe trying to find it somewhere on my computer, you can actually just search through your course images. And then user images, and this one is a little bit different. So any images that you have uploaded into your own user files, which actually, if you didn't know, your user files, and everyone has their own user files, teachers, admins, students, everyone. You can always find your user files under the account area, and then you'll have this little area for files. So anything that you upload over there will be found there. So maybe if you wanted to create, as let's say a teacher, you wanted to create like a introduction page, maybe where you're introducing yourself, and maybe you've already uploaded a picture of you because that's what you're using as your profile picture. You could then, instead of having to find it again on your computer, just say, I'm going to upload this picture from my user images, and then you can embed that directly there. So, or you can click on this little icon here. And if I click on the icon, it'll give me a couple different options. So the first thing it's going to let me do is it's going to let me search my computer to upload an image. So if I click on this little rocket ship here, it's then going to browse my computer for any pictures or any of my files that I have. And then I have, here we go. So if I wanted to upload a picture, and we'll do this picture of the Tetons here, search my computer for it, and it's going to give me a preview so I can get an idea of what it is that I'm uploading, just in case you have file names that maybe aren't very organized. I try to keep mine organized, but sometimes it's nice to be able to see the picture you're uploading. You'll also always have the option when you're uploading images to add your alt text. And remember that alt text is basically, this is used for students that are using things like screen readers. So you always want to make sure you're adding alt text to describe your image. So any student that is using a screen reader will have that image then read to them. You do want to make sure that you have something in here. A lot of times file names can be named something just like numerical numbers, just a long string. So you can imagine if you had a file name that was just numbers and letters, that's going to be really confusing if a student is using a screen reader and that is read to them. So you do want to make sure, just best practices in terms of accessibility, when you are uploading images, media, things like that, make sure you add some alt text in there. If I am ever like, oh, what is alt text? You got the little question mark there letting me know, okay, this is going to be used by screen readers to basically describe that image to my students. So we can say this is an overlook of the Tetons in Wyoming. And then if I was going to, if this image was something like a banner, I could set that up as a decorative image, and then I wouldn't need alt text. It would just let the students know, hey, this is a decorative image for those of them that are using screen readers. I want this image to be displayed or embedded in my RCE, so I'm going to keep that as is. If I wanted this to open in a new tab, I could enable that, but for this case, I want that image just right there in my RCE. So I can go ahead and click submit. And we'll give that a second to load. And then it's going to add the picture in there. So this picture that I'm using, kind of a high quality picture. So it came in rather large. So if you ever upload an image and you're like, this is really big, you can actually click on that picture. And then you'll see these little 4 squares in the corner. So when I see those, then I can actually click and drag to make that smaller, however big or large I want that to be. And then that way I don't have to worry about that maybe taking up my entire screen. And then if I wanted to get fancy and maybe align things, so just like when you would see in maybe Microsoft Office or Google Documents, you have a lot of those word editing, text editing options when you're using the RCE. So if I wanted to maybe align this to the center, I could do so. You may have noticed when I clicked on the images icon, I did have a couple other options as well. So you have the option to use something called Unsplash, which I like to think of as just a big, giant digital library for pictures. So if I maybe wanted to find a picture but didn't have one picture in mind that I wanted to use, I could just search a term. So we'll say classroom. And then it's going to give me a whole bunch of different high quality images that I could then use. So if I found a picture in here where I'm like, oh, I want to use this one, I can click on that, hit submit, and then that's going to embed that in my RCE. So you can use Unsplash as well for whenever you're wanting to find images. And maybe there's something that you just want to add, but you aren't sure, you can use that. You also have the option to upload images from file URLs as well. So you do have a couple options there. So a few different options. You have the icon you can click on, or if you want to kind of dig around through either your computer, you can upload from the icon as well. But you'll also find that under the drop down. But if you wanted to upload from your computer, something already exists in Canvas, so your course files, your personal, your user files, you can upload from there. So that's kind of uploading and embedding images. So the next one is the media. So media, you kind of have those same options too. If I click on that little drop-down arrow, I can record or upload media that I already have on my computer. If I have media, so think like videos, audio clips, things like that, I can upload those from my course if they already exist, or if they're already in my user files, I can upload that directly from my user media. Or if I just wanted to record something, I can click on the icon and it's going to ask me, do I want to upload something from my computer or would I like to record? So if I wanted to record, this would then be using the Canvas Media tool. So from here, I could start my recording, wait for it to count down, and then record whatever it is I wanted to record in my video. It's important to note that when you're using the Canvas Media tool here, that this is going to record, and you will have the option to play it back and kind of see what it is that you recorded. You can even give it a name too, but important to note that it's not going to save to your computer. It's going to save into the cloud. So you won't have to worry about that. But usually with the media, if you're uploading media, the limitation is 500 megabytes if you're just directly uploading from your computer. But when you are recording, just know it's not going to save to your computer. It will just save to the cloud. But you will have the ability to, once you record that video, let's say if you wanted to transfer your course from 1 year, 1 semester to the next, that video would still exist in there. So that file would still be accessible. Your students could still see that from course to course.
Hey, Paris.
Yes.
So Danielle on YouTube is asking, back to the Unsplash conversation, does Unsplash contain Creative Commons pictures only?
That is a good question. So, because I know that they're getting, because all the pictures that are on Unsplash is basically what kind of filters into Canvas. So it might be, I'm actually not sure. I'd have to look into that.
Danielle, you deserve a round of applause. Anytime someone can stump Paris,
right?
You win a prize. So congratulations. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so let's hop back over here to the media. So if I recorded a video, I'll start recording again. I also recommend when you are using the Canvas Media tool, when it does its countdown, I always recommend having like somewhat of a neutral face, because a lot of times I've started a recording and I'm doing something weird with my face, and of course it captures that. So when it does count down, I don't know, maybe a nice smile or just really, yeah, some somewhat of a neutral face when you start that. But then once see? So once I finish my recording and I'm like, okay, do I want to watch it over? I can hit the play button. If I needed to start over because maybe my cat jumped up on my lap, I could start over. But if I was happy with this, I could just hit save. And then it's going to do its processing thing. It might take a couple seconds, minutes, depends really how long your video is, your internet connection, things like that. So when you do see it processing, that's entirely normal. Do give it just a little bit of time. But once it's done, then it will auto embed in the RCE. So then we could even from there play it back, watch it, and it'll give us our little message saying like, hey, it's being uploaded. It'll be done. So we'll give that kind of a second to do so. But while that is uploading, when it is that you want to upload documents, files, things like that, you're always going to use this little text or the paper icon. And this will allow you to upload your files. So if you had a syllabus that you needed to provide to your students, things like that, then there we go. So now that's all uploaded so we can see that. If I wanted to play it, I could play that. But with the documents, if I needed to upload something from my computer, I could do so. Also, I can search the course or my user files for those documents. But if I just click the icon, it's going to give me the option to upload a file directly from my computer. So we will use our example document, upload that, hit submit. And then that's going to then add that document in there. So if I decided that I kind of wanted to change things up, maybe edit the name, you do have the ability, because I know for me personally, I don't like having the file extensions right in there just because I think it makes it look kind of clunky. You can remove that if you want. I can come over here and click on the link options, and that will also give me the option to change the text in the RCE. So if I maybe didn't have my syllabus name something nice, or maybe I wanted to rename this to my week 1 document, I could do so. Another really, really cool thing, and this is kind of like fun Canvas magic. So when you normally upload a file in here, it kind of just sits there. If the student wants to look at the file, they'll have to click on this little magnifying glass. But that magnifying glass is kind of hard to see. So what you can actually do, because if I click on it, then it's going to bring up that preview, which is awesome. But you can actually set it up in your RCE. So instead of having to make the students click on that little magnifying glass, because sometimes they just simply don't, they'll just click on the file name and then they'll download that to their system. But what you can actually do is you can make it so when the students go to that page, that it actually auto opens that document. And you can do that by back over here when we click on the document, the file name under link options. You're going to have something down here at the bottom that says automatically open an inline preview. What that basically means is when someone goes to the page, automatically open up that file for them. So you can do this anywhere where you have the new RCE. So if you're uploading something like your course syllabus to like the syllabus page, you might want that just to auto open as soon as the students access that page. So now if I hit save, now it just auto opens. I don't have to know that I need to click on that tiny little magnifying glass. So that's a really fun thing to kind of do in your courses. It makes it easier so students don't have to consistently, because a lot of times they won't know to click on that. They'll just click on the file name and they'll do that all throughout the school year. And then they'll have like 20 copies of your syllabus on their computer. So kind of just a nice little fun Canvas wizard kind of thing is you can auto open those files that you do upload into your Canvas area.
Paris, what I think you were doing when you snapped that image is that you were just looking awestruck at that beautiful picture that you selected up above. Because if you look, she's almost looking up like, wow.
Oh my gosh, the Tetons are pretty cool. They are awesome.
Shout out to Paris, because anytime you get the OG, Beth Crook, calling you out saying such a great feature, I mean, she must be doing something right. Hey, Beth, how are you?
It really is so cool. That was honestly when I was in support and I'd help a teacher with their syllabus. I was always like, do you want to make this just add a little bit of Canvas magic to it, make it much easier for everyone and just make it cool. But yeah, I love that feature. So that's always my fun. Like, let's show you how to do something cool with this. So another really common thing that has kind of changed and really kind of threw people for a loop with the new RCE was the apps. So before, a lot of the different apps would be just kind of represented on the toolbar. Now with the new RCE, things are a lot more cleaned up. But the biggest thing is people are like, where do I find my apps? I don't know where everything went. So your apps are actually now going to be under the plug icon. You can always just think like, hey, plugins to Canvas. So you can always find any apps under there, even the things like Studio, Canvas apps, you'll also find that there. So my list is pretty short in terms of the apps that I have. However, at your school, you might have way more. But regardless, any apps you'll always, always, always find under that little plug icon here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to upload something from my Google Drive. I could come over here. I could use the Google Drive. Oh, it's mad at me. Oh, I'm using LTI 1.3. I have to set it up in this instance. But you can find your Google Drive from there. And then once it is that you start to consistently use those apps, then you'll start to see them as soon as you click on the plug icon. You won't have to view the whole list. Then I'll just see, oh, okay, my Google Drive is right there. Or if I wanted to view all my different apps, I could do so from here. So if I wanted to use Studio instead of using just the regular Canvas media recording tool, because first off, Studio is absolutely awesome. So if I wanted to maybe use Studio, then I could use that just by clicking on that plug icon. And then if I wanted to record from here versus the Canvas media tool, I could do so. For those of you that kind of play around with Studio or don't know yet, but Studio gives you a lot of really cool analytical tools. So if I wanted to know who's watched my video, who hasn't watched my video, if I record those things, like even if it's just a, hey, here's what we're doing for the week type of video, using Studio instead of our Canvas media tool over here, Studio will let you get all that different analytical information. So if you do have access to Studio, and you aren't using that for recording, you should absolutely use it for recording. Plus, you can even do Studio quizzes. You can upload like videos from your computer. You can take YouTube videos and then add quizzes to that. Studio on its own is just absolutely a wonderful tool. I love it. But you can access it from the plug icon. And let's say maybe you wanted to add a YouTube video. Also, another really common question is people are like, I don't know how to add YouTube now because the YouTube icon is now in the plug icon. So if I wanted to add a YouTube link, just click YouTube. And then I could search for the video it is that I'm trying to find. So search for NASA. If I found a video on here that I was like, okay, this is the video that I'm wanting to use, I can come over here and I can click on Embed. And then that's going to then add that into my RCE area. If maybe you wanted to embed that video and you're like, okay, this is a little bit too big, like I don't want it to be this big, I can search for that video again. And there's a couple different options next to the embedding tool. So I can click on that little drop-down link. And if I just wanted it to just be just simply a link, I could do that. Or if I wanted to maybe embed it, but I didn't want it to be this big, ginormous link, you can also change the sizing of the embed video that you're adding in there. So just to kind of show you what that looks like for the student, scroll down a little bit. So it'll keep it kind of small, but the students will have the option to make it full screen. So if you maybe don't want the video to take up half of your screen, of the student's screen, you do have the ability to change the embedding sizes on that if you do want to. So a lot of really fun things that you can do with the embedding. And really within the RCE, you'll still see a lot of those common features I mentioned earlier. So good practice, and this is just kind of me being like, hey, make sure to do this. Your accessibility checker, that's a really common thing that sometimes people tend to forget, is whenever you're done making something, being an assignment, discussion, a page, even your syllabus, always run through your accessibility checker, because this is going to tell you if there's anything that maybe doesn't have the alt text embedded, because you just want to make sure that whatever it is that you're adding into Canvas is accessible for all your students. So a really good rule of thumb, when you're all done making whatever it is you're building out, always run the accessibility checker just to be sure, hey, is everything that I've added in here showing up fine? Is that going to be accessible for all my students? Also, something, if at any point you want to embed content, and depending on your screen size, this is something that the new RCE does. You might see everything on your screen, or you might see these little 3 dots. Just to kind of show you what those 3 dots do, is if your window is small, you'll start to notice that it's going to compress things and then hide them behind this little 3-dot menu. So if you aren't seeing everything on your screen and you see those 3 dots, make sure to check those 3 dots, because maybe you're like, I don't have the plug icon. Your window might just be smaller, a little bit more truncated. That's entirely fine. Canvas will just kind of put them behind that little menu when your window screen is small. If at any point, the last little embedding thing I kind of wanted to show you is if there's maybe a website that has some, because there's a lot of really cool things. I know NASA has some stuff. There's a couple science websites where you can actually embed different like games and tools into Canvas, and they give you the embed code. So if at any point you need to embed something into your RCE, you can do so by using that little cloud icon, and then just dropping the embed code of what it is that you're wanting to then add into your RCE. And also, for those of you that teach math or science, your math equation editor also still in here, just located next to your embed icon. So you do have the ability to still embed all your math equations and all that fun stuff. But looks like we still have some time. So that's kind of the biggest how-tos and a lot of the common questions that we had in support. So if anyone has any questions, I would like to open it up for that.
So Paris, here's one from Raphael. He says, where can we find sources for HTML buttons?
Ooh, sources for HTML buttons. So I know there's it's called The Button Factory. That's a really big one that people like to use. Let me find. So if you're wanting to kind of generate buttons, this is a really big one that people like to use. This is a very simplistic one. Also, Canva is a really good resource for making and creating buttons as well. With this one will allow you to, you can simply, if you want to do HTML, you can embed it, or if you just want to download the image and then upload that image then into your RCE and then turn it into a link, you can do that. I like to use the Button Factory. That's a really big one. But if you're ever feeling really fancy, Canva is also fun, because then you can add your own images and really kind of make things kind of jazz it up a little bit.
Make magic with those buttons, everyone. Make magic. Everyone, as always, pleasure to have Paris on with us, one of the smartest Canvas experts at the entire company, also known as the Queen and Czar of Canvas. I just made those up, if you're wondering. But she is that good. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. If there's any specific topics you need us to cover, shoot me a note, mark.booth, B-O-O-T-H-E, @instructure.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
See ya.